Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" The woman said to the serpent, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden. But God did say, 'You must not eat from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food, and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some of it and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" This story infers that God walks with us in the garden. God is one with us in this allegory, and it is important to note that this oneness is experienced when in the garden only. God is not a separate being, but being when in this garden together. The garden metaphor reveals that our inner state can be our peaceful place of being, a paradise, alive, beautiful, joyful. But we can also mistakenly leave the garden behind and lose connection with our deepest being. So in this tale, we learn there's a separation that can occur within us. We read in Genesis 2:9 that there are two trees in the middle of this garden that are to coexist: the tree of life, our life source, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the mind. The allegory in Genesis 2:15 through 17 reveals that we are to take care of this garden and not consume the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, a metaphor for duality. We might recall that Jesus did not eat of his devil's suggestions during the wilderness temptation. Every tempting word made by the devil within Jesus' mind began with an if statement, similar to conditional computer programming language that allows a computer, in this case the brain, to make decisions. The brain can only view this world as being dualistic, meaning it is meant to operate in a world of opposites, good and bad, right and wrong, etc. It judges everything. If we choose to live solely by what the mind puts forth, we too become judgmental, lose our way, and will become unable to truly enjoy life. It is like death to our core being, the very expression of life, who we really are. Peace will leave us, fear will replace it. By following only our mental thought processes, we learn from the garden story that humanity eventually loses complete connection with its inner being. This temporary unawareness is portrayed by Adam and Eve hiding from God. They see themselves as being alone, separate, feeling naked without their source, which by the way is still within them, of course. But their perception of it is blocked by fear and false beliefs, an illusion produced by the brain that only knows how to interact with and react to the outer world around it. We might say that we too sometimes remain temporarily unaware due to our blind spots, seemingly disconnected from our deeper source. Label it our divinity, if you like, our perfect, incorruptible core being. So what is the serpent metaphor? The serpent begins as a subtle whisper within the mind. This reminds me of the thought stream that can involuntarily run through our brains, and not the same as using our brain voluntarily to think and problem solve when needed. The involuntary thought stream is what we don't want to consume as our truth. Otherwise, it can turn into a devil of a challenge if left unchecked, as we learned in this story about Jesus' wilderness temptation. We learn that the mind can become our adversary, our slanderer, one who falsely injures the good reputation of our true being. So to consume, to receive one's nourishment from only the brain's thought stream, negates the walk in a garden with our divine being. This is what it is to fall, to err, to make a correctable mistake. It's no big deal, and without eternal consequences, because this is how we learn, right? I suspect that after Jesus had his wilderness experience and being well aware of the Adam and Eve story, that this is why he taught the idea of being born again. He saw that once we begin to awaken and see that we can reverse this self-created curse, so to speak, we begin to live life anew, from the inside out rather than from the outside in. We return to walking with our source and enjoy being. We understand that the serpent of our mind may whisper, but that's okay. We can and have learned to manage our minds. So let us view the Garden of Eden story we read today as something figurative, something found within each of us, representing our struggle to become aware of who we truly are through our choices. Sometimes we create our own sufferings, our own hells, and one might say, our own heavens.